Honourable Governor Blong, Norton.
Thank you, through Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to add a few words, and also hard work that he has put in, and the report that he has presented here, or the statement. I also want to agree with the comments made by Sepuka Temu in regards to the possibility of considering renaming the institution, as he has stated, and I agree with much of what he has said. My comments that I wish to put forward are in relation to the state of our public service, and also advise that at least an effort is being undertaken by this government. And I'm pleased to state that the efforts undertaken by the Minister for DPM, working together with the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reforms, are moving in the right direction, bringing about much needed reforms so that we can rebuild the public sector, in particular the public service, so that it can be a modern public service that serves to the expectations of our people. One of the efforts I feel we need to undertake with seriousness is right-sizing. Right-sizing the public service so that it can be an efficient, lean, productive machine that delivers effectively and efficiently. I feel that we should have a public service that plays more of an ombudsman role, an audit, inspectorate role, designing policies, implementing, enforcing laws, and leaving the delivery of goods and services to the private sector. If we were able to do this, we can actually reduce the size of the public service, and from the savings we make, we could actually remunerate our public servants far better than what we do today. Just after independence, every public servant in Papua New Guinea had a home. Just as an example of what I'm trying to make here as a point. In Kokora Station, when I was going to school there, I would go up to my uncle's house at the Kokora Station and visit him. On holidays, I spent time with him. He would wake up at around 7 o'clock, make his way to the office, the district office. He was well dressed, he was productive, there was order and discipline. And I did not know at that time that my uncle was just a driver. But he had a home. In Kokora Station, there was a cleaner whose job was just to clean the station. There was a tractor driver whose job was just to drive the tractor and clean the station or contribute to maintaining the station. They both had homes. They were adequately remunerated. And as a result, you could see productivity and pride in the way they moved around, in the way they carried out their duties. That's not the case today. Today, we expect our public servants to go to work as hard as possible, to be patriotic, to build this nation, this economy. But where are they living? What are they being paid? Are they happy? We have to address this. We did this in customs, Mr. Speaker. In customs, we restructured that organization, and we did it ourselves. We did it with very little help from consultants, in fact, no help at all. We restructured customs. We increased the wages and salaries of all our staff. We put in place a system whereby organizations that were clearing their goods late would be penalized. And the funds from those penalties would be put into a trust account. That trust account, the funds from that trust account was utilized to ensure that all our customs officers had houses, had uniforms, had decent training. The outcome was profound. In the first year, being an independent organization, having extracted ourselves from the IRC, customs was given only 40% of the budget that it had requested for. We only had 67% of the staff ceiling. But because of this restructure, because of this effort to remunerate our customs officers better, give them housing, give them a decent work environment, the organization collected 400 million kina, more than projected. And I attribute this to the very fact that the officers were happy. They were willing to come to work. They were enthusiastic about their roles, their responsibilities as patriots building a nation. I had hoped to replicate this in as many government departments as I could. And that is why I proposed the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reforms in 2012. In fact, I brought that idea to the then leader of government business, who is currently our Prime Minister, the Honorable James Marape. He took this idea to then Prime Minister, Honorable Peter O'Neill, who agreed that these reforms were much needed. And the organization was created, the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reforms. The idea being to completely overhaul and reform the public sector, in particular the public service, so that we can have an effective, efficient, productive, modern public service. Unfortunately, many of the reports that came out of that committee were never acted upon. They grew dust, collected mold, the hallways of Waigani. But fortunately, this organization has been revived, and we have undertaken with great enthusiasm this much-needed effort. And we're working in great partnership with the Minister for Department of Personal Management. One of those efforts is to work with our development partners, New Zealand, Australia, and the United States, to look at how they can assist us in terms of resources, in terms of what they've gained in knowledge as nations that have become very developed, have gone much way ahead of all of us, developing nations, and how they can assist us in modernizing our public sector. I'm pleased to report that those efforts are well underway, and I will be tabling a report at the next Parliament session to give you a detailed report on the outcomes of the work undertaken by the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reforms. Mr. Speaker, I just want to add a few more closing remarks in regards to the statement or the statement presented here by the Minister for Department of Personal Management. If we want to progress, we are going to have to seriously invest in our public service. Right now, what is happening is that we have three types of public servants in the public service. You have your nomad, the public servant who is just transitioning through the public service. His intentions are not to remain in the public service and work there. His intentions are to just spend time there, draw down a salary, while he looks for a job elsewhere. So he's going to give as minimal effort as he possibly can to his tasks at hand. The second type of public servant that we have is the public servant who finds the public service to be a social security system. He's not interested in coming to work at all if he can get away with it. In fact, there are public servants within our organizations that don't come to work but are paid. In Oro province, we found a few. We removed them. One particular person did not come to work for 9 years, but he was drawing down a salary. And there are many more like this all over the country. These are the social security public servants. And they are a large part of our public service. Then you have the patriots, a small group of Papua New Guineans. They come to work diligently. 7:45 or before that, they're already at the office. 16:06, they're still working. Weekends, they come to work. They don't ask for overtime. They believe that this country deserves this type of attention and commitment. They live in settlements, they live in villages, no running water, no electricity at times. Oftentimes they're ostracized, they're overlooked. But they continue to come to work. They are the true patriots of this country. But you know, patriotism does not put food on the table. It does not pay your children's school fees. And eventually what happens is that these type of public servants lose hope, lose interest. And then they leave. They leave for private companies who can pay them 3, 4, 5, even 10 times better. And now what's happening is that many of them are also leaving for offshore opportunities. Offshore opportunities. And I can tell you that it's not just our technical or our learned people from academic institutions that are leaving for offshore opportunities. But now, even the very vital human resources that we need to build a nation, such as carpenters and mechanics, and they're also leaving. I found a young man in Brisbane, an auto mechanic. He was standing in line. He was going there to work for 5 years. He had successfully secured a job there. They flew him down, they interviewed him, and they were so pleased with him that they sent him back to get his family, gave him a 5-year contract to go and work there in Brisbane as an auto mechanic. I said, how did you secure your position? I'm curious. He said, oh, now I advertise on the internet. You can put your name, your qualifications on a job site, and you can be picked up by anyone. There's a Papua New Guinean working in Sweden, Mr. Speaker, who studied there, graduated with his degree, came back. He was keen to serve his nation. He applied for so many jobs everywhere, private sector, public sector, nobody employed him. Finally, he went back to Sweden. He applied there, he secured a job there, took his family, said goodbye to Papua New Guinea, and left. Now, when we talk about our public service and our public servants, what we want to do is work on that patriotic lot. Attract more of those type of public servants, and they are there, Mr. Speaker, many of them. 60,000 graduating every year, looking for such jobs and opportunities. And they will come and work and build this nation. But we've got to be able to remunerate them adequately, to take care of them, give them decent housing. And we can do that if we right size. And we should be getting the best possible brains to build this nation. It's a far more important role than, say, working in the private sector. With due respect to those who work in the private sector. They pay their taxes and so forth. But their efforts and activities are confined to the interests of their organization. Whereas the public servant is building a country, building a future. And we need to take care of these type of people. They are the ones that will secure our future. They will be protectors of this nation, this economy, guardians 24/7, 365. What we are supposed to be seeing, but we are not seeing. We are not seeing because we are not adequately taking care of their needs. We expect them to be patriotic, to come to work, and to be energized in building a nation. But how can they be like this when they are not adequately remunerated? I'm glad to see that the Minister for Department of Personnel Management is definitely moving in that direction. We're working together, and we wish to propose a work performance agreement as a contractual agreement between the state of Papua New Guinea and the public servant. So from T-boy all the way to CEO, he should be on such an agreement with very clear, distinct and simple KPIs, agreements in place whereby if he performs in this manner, he is adequately rewarded in this manner. If he doesn't perform in this manner, then appropriate action is taken against him. Right now, this doesn't happen. And as a result, we are seeing too few patriots in this organization. We are seeing too many dole collectors or social security collectors, too many nomads. And it's causing problems for us. And the ultimate price is paid by our people, especially those in the rural areas. Finally, I just want to state, Mr. Speaker, all of us are going to have to step up and be responsible. All of us. What's important is order, discipline, and happiness. Let's work on the happiness part. That's constructing a public service that is well remunerated, adequately paid, given the benefits they need, so that they can be happy and productive. In regards to order and discipline, this is very much lacking because exactly us here, we are supposed to set the pace, but unfortunately we do not. If you go to a government department and you see someone wearing jeans, chewing betel nut, slippers, and he comes up to you and he calls himself a director, you as a leader should be telling him, you are not adequately presenting yourself as a public servant. That's supposed to happen from the top down. Today, when you go to any of the government departments, they are not like what they used to be in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. This chewing of betel nut, this littering, this loitering, this wasting of time, turning up late, it's become the norm. We have to do away with that. Each and every one of us must be leading by example. Each and every one of us must do our best to ensure that those in our immediate vicinity reflect the fact that we want to be a great nation. With that, I want to thank you, Mr. Speaker. That is my short presentation.
The Honourable Member for Yangbro.
I do want to add a few comments to this very good presentation by the Minister. I've been member now for 10 years, Mr. Speaker, and looking at the districts, we do not find the caliber of leaders who are able to manage our districts. I come from the private sector, and the private sector does a good job in identifying cadets from university, take them through a graduate management program, and then develop them both in the country and outside the country to become managers and leaders of the future. By the time they get to the top, they are very competent. Despite the presence of the Institute of PILAG, the government has failed to undertake a program like that, so you don't have leaders now down in the provinces and the districts. In my province, for example, we even have diploma graduates as deputy administrators. This should not be the case. When we have hundreds and hundreds of degree qualified students coming through, and people with master's degrees. And we are struggling even to find administrators with double degrees. So what is the problem? And in all that I'm hearing from the Minister and all that PILAG has been able to achieve, they've done a lot of good job. The area that we are failing is developing leaders. Pre-independence, all government departments used to engage cadets coming out of universities. This is no longer the case in terms of the public service. Where are the cadets? Where are the future leaders of the public service coming through the system? Who identifies them? Who ensures there is a program to develop them through the system, including PILAG? So I think this is the area that we are continuing to fail in, Minister, and I want you to take a very good note of my comments. We want to see a program where cadets from university are identified, they come through a pathway that we develop them, and PILAG should be providing the enrichment programs and programs to shape this public service, and through scholarship programs, we could even take them all the way to overseas programs to prepare them well. So we have leaders in the public service. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this is a very big weakness of the entire public service system. There are no leaders, there are no managers, we don't have minimum qualification standards, we don't have even people being identified and developed, and positions created for them, and a pathway for them. So the public service will continue to fail us unless we have a program similar to the private sector where managers are identified from university, they come through a cadet program and are developed with a view that one day they will become the administrators of their respective provinces, and there should be a clear pathway for public servants. Mr. Speaker, the other problem I see in the public service structure, we don't have a standard structure for every district. These are the positions that must be present in every single district. Houses must be made available for them. For example, should we have a lands advisor in every district when we need to mobilize land? Most districts don't even have a lands advisor position. So this is the other factor that I'd like the Minister to please have a look at. What should be the standard structure for public service in the districts? Positions must be made available. So we are developing people, but at the same time being able to deliver the kind of services that all our districts need throughout the length and breadth of our nation. Those are some of my comments I want to make, but otherwise, Minister is doing a fantastic job. We are all here to support you. Keep going, but let's look at some of the weaknesses and use PILAG and a structure that allows us to groom managers and leaders so we have a far more competent and a public service that is really delivering the goods for us in our districts. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister Block Ground.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to stand here, join the debate, and commend the Public Service Minister on the PILAG report he's put in and the effort he's put in towards PILAG. As the previous three speakers have said before me, PILAG is pretty important. I've always said this because coming up through the ranks as a public servant, plenty of time now you make out a public servant, we all just recruit straight inside little department and districts. Plenty of Blumblol members are up here. Me plus a complain lol. CEO Blumblol district, our departmental heads, our accountants in the district. But most of these people come from the sideways. They get recruited straight into the positions they occupy. Most do not go through institutions like PILAG, be promoted properly up the ranks. When you become a district CEO, you need to know the processes and procedures, you need to know middle management, advanced management, and the processes of public service. Why I say this? Because I used to serve in the districts for 15 years as a district officer in my younger days. So having done that as a young patrol officer, going through the previous administrative college, they taught us all these things. Then they sent us to the districts in West Sepik, in Chimbu, in Wabek, and all these places. And we knew exactly what we were doing. We knew exactly how to run our districts. To this day, you have CEOs that are appointed, some from private sector, and I don't condone private sector in this aspect, but a lot of people that come from private sector and then go back to the public service do not really understand the processes involved in the public service. It is a cumbersome process, but it also needs to be done because that is the process that we have to follow. So having said that, I'd like to commend our good minister, who himself is also a provincial secretary, provincial administrator from his prior days to being a politician, and he knows truly what this institution needs to ensure that people are trained properly, people are given the job descriptions properly, and ensure that when they go out to the public service field, that they become and do their jobs properly. And as a good Governor for Oro said, right sizing is the way to go. We have a public service that is very cumbersome. If we right size, we can be able to pay our public servants better. We point our fingers at our public servants all the time, but do we give them the right conditions to operate in? Do we give them the tools to operate in? A lot of times we send our public servants to places like Kabum, places like Teleformin, places like Green River, places like Minyamia. But to catch a plane to go there, they catch the planes themselves. The plane airfares are 300-400 kina one way. How about the public servant afford to buy this plane ticket to go and come back? That's why I'm come stop lo town. When I was a young kid serving in Green River, the government provided a plane every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Speaker. It came, picked up public servants, did the runs, everything. It came on the dot at 8 o'clock every morning. It served Teleformin, Oxapmin, Nuku, and came back. No problem. Everything came through. Now those planes are not there anymore. And the public servant has to pay for his own airfares. So right sizing the public servant, public service, we can be able to look after them, train them well, and ensure they do whatever task the government desires of them. So with that, I'd like to commend the Public Service Minister on this very, very important role, and I'd like you to really push it and make certain those courses are available. So every public servant that joins, they do not just join a department, they don't just get recruited to a district. They go through PILAG first, do a course at PILAG, and then they advance to a middle management course, a diploma course, and finally a degree course to ensure that they are given the tools to do their jobs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Governor Blogal.
I want to offer a few comments. Most of the issues have been covered by previous speakers, and I want to join them in commending the minister responsible, who also was a former provincial administrator. I would have thought that he would use that experience as a provincial administrator and give specific instructions as to restructure PILAG properly so that it serves the provinces and the districts and the statutory authorities that we have and the departments at the national level. Mr. Speaker, I fully agree with the Honourable Minister for Lands. Having been a head of department back in the 80s, and then serving as Chief of Staff and then later as a politician, I've worked with all manner of public servants. And I'm still doing that now in my province. And the biggest thing I find with them, whether they're university students or have been university students and have graduated even with masters, or are coming sideways or coming through a normal way, they don't know and they don't understand the basics of public service, of the rules, of the etiquettes, of the standards, and of the laws, especially the Finance Management Act, the Procurement Act, the General Orders. They don't understand, they don't apply it. Mr. Speaker, I want this to be taught as basics in PILAG. Every public servant must know, and they should not be employed permanently. They should be put on a provisional basis. And once they are in, whether you're an education, a teacher, whether you work in the Department of Education or the Department of Health, or in commerce and industry, in the provinces, in the districts, you must do at least 3 to 6 months at PILAG, learning all these things. So I would like the Minister to take note. Secondly, I think it is about time that we advertise and get people and train them at a middle management level to manage the local level governments, for God's sake, Speaker. The local level governments, they need help. If mine is the same as all of yours, you need help. You need help at the districts. So we should be recruiting directly. We've got graduates sitting out there looking for employment. Why can't we get them in? The last point I want to make, Mr. Speaker, is this. Many of us live in towns and cities, and we don't know the problems that our people face in the villages. Many of the public servants we recruit would like to have 24-hour water, electricity, have vehicles to drive, have 745 to 406 jobs. We need to change that mentality, Mr. Speaker. We need PILAG to instill in the public service. People need to know how to chop firewood, how to handle an axe, a knife, first aid, how to put up a shelter if it's sent out there. These were skills that were taught at the Australian School of Public Administration to KIAPs and later to the patrol officers. These are skills that you still need for public servants to have, to equip them with when they are out serving our people in the rural areas. I would like PILAG to have a look at that and do these basics for our public servants who enter. But most of all, Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend the Minister for a good start, and I hope that some of those comments we're making are taken note of and put into practice. Thank you.
Honourable Member Block Kiriwina.
Mr. Speaker, me too, me like put him like talk blomi go lo this la important paper that was presented, that is presented by the Minister responsible for public service. Mr. Speaker, you me organize down lo here and you me talk lo public service. Now you may look, public service inside the rural, urban areas all the time. When we say public servants, we're speaking about public servants in Port Moresby, in Ley, in Alotau. So you may lose some the very important people who are cared for by some public servants who operate in the most rural parts of this country. Or some policemen, or didiman, or teachers, nurses, plenty blow, are very disciplined officers. You look Mosby, fortnight come, you go to Pokey House, pull up the club, or public servant stop, straight after 12 o'clock. But you go back to the public servants back home, in rural settings, or some kid are good enough, our teachers are dedicated. Our 8 post orderlies are dedicated. They're working from 7 to 8 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And after 4:06, they're still dedicated to their work. Mr. Speaker, I like commend him, Minister Osamen, put him very important paper. Come inside, Tetelo, you may discuss him. So some basics, Mr. Speaker, I would like to discuss some of the basics that a public servant has to put in his head. And it all starts at school, Mr. Speaker. Down at primary school, to high school, to the national high schools or secondary high schools, if you want, and then up to the university. You look at half of our young people, or most of our young people, discipline is lacking right at the beginning, right at the onset. No time to school. Oh, dress up for some rascals, the criminals, na go school. Trousers pun down kama, halfway lo asplor. Set or pull him karangin about. And then they go to school. These very same people who are trained in our schools make their way all the way to university with the discipline. And then we go ahead and employ them. When they get into the public service, or dress up one kind or some more dress up Tamostaplo High School. So really, really, it should go back to right at the basics. This public service team that we're talking about must go through the education system. It must go and infiltrate every system that we have. That we must learn the basics of discipline. You mean wait him all come to public service, then you like discipline him. How do you expect him to be disciplined when right at the beginning he's undisciplined? Discipline must start at the classroom, come to university, now go all the way to the public service. Mr. Speaker, you know, I've never worked for the public service. For 27 years, I worked in the private sector. We're supposed to start at 8 o'clock, finish at whatever time. And we go in, we clock first. You go plum up, you want to book past time, or put him card go inside the machine. It says you started work, you finish at this time, you clock out. This system should be also introduced in the public service system, especially in the urban area. Because most of the slack public servants are here in the urban areas. You cannot blame the rural public servants who are performing extremely well. I remember reading the paper some years ago of a teacher who's from Milimbe province, and she dedicated herself at Maniama and stayed there. Now I'm lapun stapiat lap. I remember reading the papers of a 8 post orderly in Maniama, in Morobe province. I spent 7 years of my life up there. And this 8 post orderly would come down to the rural area, get his medicine, get on the vehicle, go and walk right up to the mountains just to serve the people. We need discipline in the public service. 1 plus something where Milukim. We can have a very good statement presented today. That's all. You look awesome. We are repeating ourselves, talking about the same issues year in, year out. 1 plus something where you can seriously look at and address is get some of these people who are in this system and put them in the private sector and allow them to understand how the private sector operates. Enough loquissimo trainers, Lord, training more people blame me who have no idea of what motivation is. Let's get out and get people in the private sector, bring them into the public sector and allow them to teach them how things are done in the private sector. Some blah blah blah, silip go 8 o'clock, finish. Now silip yet. Time rain come up, awesome, now morning, and mo kirap lo hapas 9. Lo go walk. We need to get some discipline in there. University standards today, Mr. Speaker. I read with interest in the social media and I hear from our students from the University of Technology of a young man who was abused in his room by 20 men. A young Papuan man who just went to the University of Technology last week was woken from his room. They pulled him out, 20 people, they abused him. Another young man came to his defense, they punched him also. What sort of institutes do we have that are training leaders of the future? You must send him these institutes too. Send him all, discipline him all. Talk him all, you cannot dress like this and come to this university. You need to change your attitude. You don't have to come, na simuk, na walk about, come to classroom, put him off cigarette, throw him, go down, and go inside. There must be discipline in our institutes. The discipline in the institutes have evaporated. Even staff members are drinking with students. Oh, Simuk, one time all students. Oh, KK boy, one time all students. There's no discipline in the systems. So I commend this bill. So this bill must go further and must go law institutes blame me. If you want to employ somebody in the institute, get him to understand that there must be discipline in that institute you're going to. Mr. Speaker, napla something me like discussing one time, Yumi. Plenty of parents now all work one time public service. Mr. Speaker, time or like retire. And picking him sit down waiting, mama, papa, or retire and by going to the portion. One talk and wait, that's all going to the portion. One talk system is in place. We must get rid of that. You cannot just get your son and you retire as this public servant and you put him in that portion. There are people in the system who work very, very hard to get into that portion, yet you get one talk system, now one talk blow, you come, now pull up in this portion. That must stop. And also when I walk too. Now you kiss him and tason, you see around him and lap. Mr. Speaker, finally, inside the public service blame me. I'm saying something, man walk him, this year I'm walking here, next year I'm walking. 10 years down the line I'm walking same thing. There's no motivation in the system. People need to move out from this portion and go to the other portion. In a sit down the same desk 10 years, 20 years. All departmental heads, now heads pro sectors must look. This man am sit down this chair 5 years finish, 10 years finish. Rosman put him on section, kiss him up man, come na put him here. I say this, Mr. Speaker, because in my district I have a lady who does my printing. And she sat on that desk for the last 15, 20 years. Now time I'm less come walk and take off go to garden. Who sat by printing check? Because boss blame me no look like this. So we've decided to bring another young lady as a training. Now I'm trained like this system. So we need to rotate our public servants. We cannot continue to have them working in the same system year in, year out. And so I commend the minister for this paper. And I hope that it is not only a paper that will be discussed here, na talk good, na bilasim this paper, but it will be a paper that will bring a change in the public service and for the good of the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, me look sabe planning member like discussion this paper, but me will look sabe usadi will sana long time, so magi mem pass them. Honorable member will not wagi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me thank you, Minister Blow Public Service, Law Karmis Law, Table Report Blow, Passing Institute of Leadership and Governance. Me like talk awesome. You mean plenty. In this country, you mean politicians, you mean blame all public servants. Or something go wrong. But I think we should take the blame ourselves. Because when you look at the public service structure in this country, we effectively have 3 public service, different structures, and most blow them 3 different people. National Public Service. And Tamil minister come inside, they want to appoint the secretary. Provincial Public Service, governor come inside, and will appoint him provincial administrator belong. District, you may all members of the district go, you may like appoint them CEO below me. And they are responsible to us. So there is no structure where, for example, Minister below, Secretary of Agriculture, you know how much coffee people are growing in Notwagi? How much extension people in Notwagi? Because by go through, there is no connection between Secretary or line inside law, Agriculture Department, law national level, one time provincial level, and district level. This is where we have to completely overhaul our public service. Now you may blame public service. But you may control the public service at 3 different levels. And there's no synchronizing. If you ask the Secretary for Health now, Hamas Health Center Staff Law, not Wagina, what is the function? Anybody know now, or Minister of Agriculture, Secretary of Agriculture, not survey because he is not synchronizing with the provincial agriculture, he is not synchronizing with the district agriculture level for him to understand as a country where we are going. Sometimes you know good policy. So we all have to sit down and re-look at the public service structure and see where we are going. Now you look in. Law provinces. Plan the provincial of this country. We have gone to a situation where this province, or a man will this province must go district administrator and a provincial administrator. They may not be the best. But this is the system now. Me blow this province, me must go provincial administrator, me must go district administrator. This situation is now getting out of hand. We have to correct it. Otherwise, we will have no public service left. Now, me look at district public service. They rely on assistance from DSIP. Because you know what funds come down low, national agriculture come down low, district agriculture and provincial agriculture level? No funding. Time agriculture departments are putting on budget. They don't consider what's happening in the provinces, what's happening in the districts. So how about you may talk, you may like growing coffee, you may like growing tea, you may like growing rubber, cocoa, copra. How are we going to do it? Because the people who are growing it have not been looked at properly because of the structure of the public service. You look at him. We have to sit down and look at the public service structure. But look at police and the CIS. They are going from the headquarters to the districts. We have to allow all these people who, like agriculture and health and all these people, from the headquarters must liaison with the provinces and liaison with the district in a way that there is less political interference. So because everybody in the district, when I'm working myself in the district, they come under the CEO. Now CEO shows him got connection with the provincial administrator. Then there is a connection where all can. So it's not. The provincial administrator is sitting on his own, looking at provincial public service, who don't know what is happening in the districts. And if there's no connection between the provinces and the headquarters in Waigani, we are totally lost. The country will not grow. The things we talk about coffee and all the other agriculture things, we make very good policies, but all man will carry them out are not connected to an extent where they will carry it out. That's important. The other thing too, you look in, for all the provinces, very few provinces, all current provincial administrator blow one man outside the inside. Otherwise, everybody else, you want to sit down there. Whether they're the best or they're good or bad, you know something. But people say, I'm from this province, I must be the provincial administrator, I must be the district administrator. It's now getting out of hand. It's like, now you may support him, yeah? But governors will come and put their own men for provincial administrators. District members will come and put their own men for district administrators. This is the scenario at the moment. We have to face the realities that this is what is happening on the ground. And nobody will know, understand. No, Waigani, they don't even know what is happening in the provinces. Waigani and provinces don't know what is happening in the districts. Now, how people benefit? All members now, you are some district level. Everything in the district. All man provincial level, PSIP na grant local provinces all help him. And same is national level. So time all budget, like for example, time agriculture department or health department all budget. Do they really look at how to help the health sector in the districts? Plenty will look at. And this is the problem with the structure that we have. If we continue to politicize the public service, you can train them to be master's degree holders. You can train them to whatever degree you can hold, but if you politicize the public service in Port Moresby, in the headquarters, you politicize in the provincial, you politicize in the district, public service are not going to work. They're going to listen to the yes master, and once they go to the yes master system as we are going now, there is no public service. Let's not kid ourselves. There is no public service. We have 3 different levels of public service who don't synchronize, who don't understand each other. If they don't understand, that is why as a government and as concerned Papua New Guineans, as members of this parliament, now we are going to election in 2 months' time. Some people you come back, some people you don't now come back. But public servants will be still there. And they don't have synchronizing to run the country or run the province or run the district in a synchronized manner that we will leave them to run it. We will not be suspicious of everybody and anybody. Yeah? I'm this line. So me like talk was public service minister, you really have to look at how we can structure the public service. Law headquarters or some secretary of agriculture, no line department, law headquarters must link one time online law inside the provinces, must link one time online inside the districts. That is where we will grow our coffee, we will grow our cocoa. You need to health center background, road in the system background. Because we have no synchronizing. All man lo works unit lo not work district. You know sabe lo. Em look so la money lo maintenance work. All lo DSIP stuff. Lo provinces all lo provincial budget stuff. Once we have the synchronizing of the public service, you will see that we will go to election. Some of us will win, some of us will lose. Them normal way belong here, but the public service must work to save our people of this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Minister of Works.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Me talk thank you, Lord, you give him time, me. 1. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, me like talk thank you, Lord, Public Service Minister. Karam Disla, very important paper come where you make a the opportunity, Lord. Talk long public service. Mr. Speaker, you and me and middle politicians. People is give him mandate lo yumi for 5 years. Every term in 5 years. 5 years believe me, I'm now close to come lo finish blongen. Yumi got less than 9 weeks or 8 weeks stop. By issue of rich by me go back lo election that's all. Mr. Speaker, public service by stop yet. And if politicians think that we are much stronger and more powerful, I tell you, you are wrong. The public service system still stands very, very powerful. Mr. Speaker, time me enter in Parliament law 1994, Misa Are1 la name law one la very vibrant public servant, departmental head, always I call him Dr. Sepuka Temu. Now me looking at Dr. Sepuka Temu. And me come up member of the parliament, I'm come stop layan, and me like talk so you me all get awesome. Lord, time before, public servants only come up football belong all politicians until Sepuka Temu come inside. Now me carry the reform the public service come inside. That's why I suppose me blood politicians say look him awesome. You be like working some blood legally all moves inside long system or department where you go pass as a minister or you want a politician, you like trying to touch in public service. Public service, you got banis plongen, nadila banis, say puka time come up Minister of Public Service I was there to witness him present that paper, Mr. Speaker, and he is still here. So plenty time you play talk, Mr. Speaker, me like talk or say, me say admire him. Plenty belong all debate belong say puka apart from plenty all point of order sem sakamabim. But plenty of debate belong is a good plan, very productive, and he always gives his reason why he takes a stand in every issue that me are discussing here. Mr. Speaker, me also am political head. Lo here, usedigo pass lo Department of Works. Responsibility blow me, and blow me must make sure some department blow me must run good. Me like talk Mr. Speaker, also lo department blow me. He got one plan man tasol me say communicate one time. I only communicate with the departmental head. Tasol. That departmental head happens to be a Southern Islander, and I happen to be a Southern Islander, Mr. Speaker. But the word brother, ango, ame, lo talk place yalibu, talk place mendi, talk place fishing, na English and tambo through. Lo secretary blow me use him blow me, or me use him, lo departmental head blow me. I treat him on a professional basis, and he is also taught to treat me like his minister, not like his colleague brother from La province or La country or whatsoever. Mr. Speaker, me look in public service. Law 1992, law 1997, public servant law 2002. I mean, no one kind. Also, public service, blame me now. We have literally corrupted the system ourselves. So, as one blood to carry evidence, well, I got no evidence, but me talk because me looking public service law before, and me completely different law public service law now. Mr. Speaker, me work law sit down. Now, me work law look. Law problem where Ukraine, he work law go through long end. Now, President Putin, and me work like go pass long and lo destroy more people long up and fight only working lap. But one plan leak information, Mr. Speaker, me pick him up time all international reporters, journalists, he using one blood talk. And I want to share that with you here, Mr. Speaker. Putin's advisors only say to Putin or advise Putin knowing what Putin wants to hear. Only don't like give him advice long him freely or fairly without fear or favor, because the moment they may only give him some like an advice where Putin by not like him lo year long him. And now when I can bagarap by come up lo this la particular advice lo Putin him power seven at Indian stuff lo Putin. Mr. Speaker, me come back lo place now. Me come back and lo place lo country blow me. Mr. Speaker, I have now come, I've lived. Me know young man more. I have lived to see our public service machinery collapsing. Me 100%. Me sabodim talk blong. The Honorable Dr. Pok, member blong. Not Wagi. You may not can blame him on public servants. All get that time. We have some very faithful public servants out there who give their lives to save the independent state of Papua New Guinea without fear or favor, whether it's in promotion or not in promotion, only work yet. But coming back to us as political heads, as soon as you go into a department and you appointed a minister, some people you me is a pioneer schoolmates you me. Some people you me point him all one lot double you me. One people some people you me point him tambu you me. We are not honest enough to declare our interests. Yet we appoint them and put them into very important institutions that this country relies very heavily on. So what do you get? What do you get? Question number one. Why do you put him there from the start? Why? You can only be as good as your men, Mr. Speaker. Suppose you got all good man walk around you this like minister or government, but you kiss him good plan name because workman play you, he walk him walk right. But if you run around and appoint people that do not deserve to be sitting on those seats, what do you expect? Mr. Speaker, me come now along this la telephone. Plenty blah blah, lucky blah blah, so you blah school good. You speak better English, you write better. Me not talk you privilege once, but thank you, Papa God Osem. You stop at level. Me blah sambla. We had to scratch. Me blah sambla at work. Me blah working more lily work blah too. Without us, society system to buy non stop. Without you, system, the society to buy non stop. We have all different responsibilities to play, Mr. Speaker. But I am starting to realize that someone is using my phone to write up some texts on some very important issues and debates in this country. We are made to think that this guy is very, very smart. He's a rocket scientist. But you know what we do not realize, Mr. Speaker, is that it is not me who is writing up all these stories on the phone, on great debates that is going on in the country. Someone else is writing up the story for me. And I am picking up glory for nothing, and I'm considered one of the best in the country. We have to be very, very careful. We have to be very, very careful. If you me one place stop inside the category where you me practice him this la, look good, tin good. Tin good. We are all fathers, I would think. No got one blood pateri stop inside here. You me got family stop. Whatever we leave behind, our children will copy it, Mr. Speaker. Now, if we are doing some things here in this country, over so many years after independence, Mr. Speaker, you know, me plenty time is a tindilo mieta. During those pre-independence days, when the Grand Chief would have been one of the, you know, I can't say very well educated, but good level of education and me kiss him. And then probably me was a moment pangial na, yano belona. Say my dear Yuina, can all probably me said, you know, someone will read right. When I sometimes sit down and look at the quality of the constitution that was written, some of the laws that were written by our forefathers, and to bring us this far, man, we have better, much more educated. Inside Lodilla phone blomi, me got pizza, blow kondo makando stop. Blood Chimbu. Ah man, I only used to hear his name until I got a hold of his picture, photo somewhere. When his last name is up. But I have a story that Kondo Makando went to Sydney when there was a very important meeting in Sydney. He was not able to read and write. He was not even able to hold a fork and knife to eat properly. Some Australians may have laughed at him, but he got up and he said, one day, my son will speak the language that you are speaking. Mr. Speaker, Kondo Makando spoke about you and I, about us. We are smarter people, better educated. We can do better for our country, Mr. Speaker. That's why I ask all of us, if some of us are doing the wrong things in this country, you must know, there's no other one apart from you. I am the only member for Mende. Now, you know, God nala member for Mende, Mr. Baxad me. I am the only member for Mende. So whatever I do, I must do the best I can for my people during my time. And there's a word called legacy. If I do the right things, I will leave a great legacy behind for the future children. They'll talk about me. They'll say good things about me. But if I leave some bad legacies behind, all back up not looking more picnic blooming and batogosan. look him, picking blood la mania. His father was bad. You know, how can all picnic blow me? Karem name no good just because of some bad behavior blow me. Mr. Speaker, meeting awesome. We have lost the track a little bit, but we've not lost it completely. Now awesome, you got this 9 more months in stop. And then by you mean staff members of parliament, ministers of state, government by you stop, you go in up, election and me finish, na time nubla government come. One man you go pass, now one government me from him. Please, I beg you all, let's not repeat the same old mistakes again. Man who said this type of public service, I may sacrifice him lifelong and thinking that one day he will become a departmental head. Politician come now, you shortcut him. You put yourself into his shoes, Mr. Speaker. You shortcut him. We bring our cronies in, and the guy who has been working all his life to get up there one day, you know, what do you put into his heart? Frustration. Frustration. I think let's stop him. Na pinisi talk to me, Mr. Speaker. Me like talk awesome. You me all the politicians. Plenty time you me work lot talk public servants. No good, no good, no good, no good. Spend a little bit of time, sit down you at one blood time. Maybe in a pool or while you're having your shower or something. Ask these questions. Am I a promoter of public service and good governance? Or me one blood man who said he run down long, destroy him. System na process block government. Plenty time me stop lo did la flow block parliament. I only hear one man at my back who talks about respecting the system and process of government, and it is none other than the governor of Wenga. System block government, a process block government must be respected. Must be respected. Enough of becoming bullies. Enough of becoming bullies. We must respect the system of government. Responsibility, I mean, it's right there, clear cut. People are politicians, people must play role players and politicians. Public service, lot of them working work laws and public service. Private sector working work laws and private sector. Come on, who says we cannot live a good life? Who says we cannot create a good country? Who says it is late? It is not late, Mr. Speaker. It is not late. There is no war here. We can stop to think. If we have done some things wrongly, let's correct it now. And please, my honorable brothers, honorable members, in a public service, respect him all, kiss him advice long all, push him agenda blow people, in our agenda blow me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Lord, give me time blow me. Come here and tintin blow me, that's all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is that the question be now put. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. The Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Parliament at its rising agenda until Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2022 at 2 p.m., please.
Mr. Prime Minister, enough you move, let me take him note longer.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Speaker. Firstly, I move that Parliament take note of the... I thought you put question be put on. You understand question be put on, Mr. Speaker. I was on my feet and I realized there's a question be put, Mr. Speaker.
By you move, you may take him note that the debate by me adjourned for a subsequent order of the day. Oh, finish. Okay, sorry. Sorry, mi aswa. Mr. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, moving finish that Parliament the rising agenda until Tuesday, 22nd of March, 2022, at 2 o'clock.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Mr. Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you all members of Parliament. Late into this term of Parliament, as I did mention one or two occasions earlier, many times we get the accusation that members aren't working. But to have members on both sides of the House sitting, working, and going through government business and business of Parliament is notable, and I say thank you all for coming in. We now, on this note, Mr. Speaker, I move that Parliament adjourn to the next sitting as moved earlier.
Honourable members, the question is that the Parliament be adjourned to 22nd March 2022 at 2:00 p.m. Those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against say no. The ayes have it. Parliament is now adjourned to 22nd of March 2022 at 2:00 p.m.